This year we set the stage for another 41 years of opportunity for ALEC. Now more than ever, the American people support our cause and know that a rebalancing of power is not only a good thing, but necessary for the enduring strength of our nation. Simply put, every one of you recognizes the value of the exchange that takes place here at ALEC. You are the reason we are here today. Without you, this organization would be nothing, but with you, we grow ever stronger and increasingly able to address issues that matter to our communities, to our families and the children that will inherit this great Federalist experiment. To that end, I'm pleased to report that this year ALEC has welcomed 29 new private sector members and 120 new legislators into the ALEC family. You bet. But as you know, our work is not done. It's never done. Given the election results of last month, ALEC state chairs and membership staff are hard at work inviting new legislators from across the country, across the states, to be part of this organization. Once again, it has been my pleasure and my honor to lead you through 2014 and to help Representative Phil King set the stage for a resurgent 2015 and beyond. While you're not quite done with me yet, I do want to take a moment to recognize the ALEC 2015 National Chair, Representative Phil King, my friend from Weatherford, Texas. I'm just so proud of you, Phil, and this organization is going to be so well led. So please stand and let us recognize you. The 2014 elections presented a number of notable firsts for women in politics. There will be 104 and perhaps as many as 105 women serving in the 114th Congress. Also, with more than 2,480 women candidates for state elective office, there were many more women in the electoral field than at any other time in our nation's history. While these statistics are impressive, there is still more to be done. Political parties must continue to identify women leaders and cultivate them as candidates. And political parties must stop viewing women as one-issue voters and pigeonholing them, and understand the diversity of issues that contribute to a woman's or anyone's decision-making at the ballot box. To speak with us today about their journey to leadership are three women that I am proud to share the stage with. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce to you our panelists for today. Tennessee Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, Missouri Congresswoman Wagner, and Wisconsin State Senator Leah Vukmir. Representative Blackburn's Representative Blackburn's reputation for focusing on the individual liberty and free enterprise principles, and Representative Wagner's understanding of the value of a dollar and the idea that government should not be in the way or on the backs of hardworking Americans have made them favorites among ALEC members. Senator Vukmir is also certainly going places, first as a state representative and then as a state senator. 2016 Chair-elect Leah Vukmir is committed to serving her community where the people believe government should empower, where the people believe government should empower people to succeed, not to get in their way. So as we welcome these ladies to the stage this morning for our panel, I'm going to, as I move to my seat, pose something that I experienced. I was elected 4 years ago as the first woman majority leader in the state of Iowa. Interestingly, the first question that the press asked of me was, do you think you're tough enough for this? Well, I certainly had my answers, but I'm curious if you women have had those experiences along the way as well. And Congresswoman, would you like to begin?
Well, thank you, and congratulations on your tenure and all that you've built, and all of you. I mean, what a fantastic year. When I look at, well, just preface this by saying historic gains at the state legislative level. Republicans now control 68 of the 98 chambers out there, and that is absolutely, give yourselves a round of applause. Amazing, amazing numbers. And we have elected more women than ever. Now, there are a few here from my Missouri delegation, and I don't know, Sue and Donna, Kurt, has anybody ever asked if I was tough enough? I don't think so. Maybe a little too tough, I get it at times, but sure, there are always those kinds of struggles. I've served in leadership roles in politics and public service for many, many years. I was a state party chairman when we took the majority in the United States House and United States Senate for the first time in 50 years, elected our first woman speaker and only woman speaker ever of the House in Missouri, went on to co-chair the Republican National Committee. I served as a United States ambassador for 4 years in Western Europe and run myself. But some of the most interesting questions came when I had small children and was running for state party chairman and only woman to ever do so. And as I said, we had some tremendous gains during that time, but I would get questions about, could I juggle that and still take care of my family? So amazing questions in this day and age, but we're very real, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. Have you two, Congressman Blackburn or Senator Vukmir, have you experienced such questions about your ability to serve at that level?
Of course, and I think that what we have to do is admit, first of all, there's a double standard. But as my mother used to say, life's not fair. And you have to just get over it. I love Taylor Swift's song and told her dad, I thought it should be the anthem for everybody in public office, shake it off. You know, get over yourself and get on with the business at hand. And that's one of the things I think that we as women have learned to do well, is to underpromise and overdeliver. And I grew up in South Mississippi. I don't know if any of my Mississippi buds are in here. Good, there are some. And with a family very involved in the political process. No one had ever run. And then when I went to college on a 4-H club scholarship, wanted to earn some money, talked to a door-to-door sales company that had never hired women into hiring me. I ended up building a women's division and becoming their first female sales manager. So people knew that I was pretty tough. I had competed in that corporate environment and made something out of thin air, if you will. And then became chairman of my party, raised the paying membership by 300%. We've got some of our great Tennessee legislators here. Charles Sargent, who was with us from day one, building that Williamson County Republican Party, and it's become a powerhouse in the state of Tennessee. And then moving to the state Senate, serving with a lot of our Tennessee guys who are just, I mean, they're ripping it up, tearing it up, doing fabulous work in Tennessee. All along the way, and leading a fight against the state income tax, there were times I was told, sit down, shut up, vote no if you want to. But that was not my nature. And I took that as a personal challenge when it was considered that I would just sit down, shut up, and vote no. And then I was running for Congress one day, and people ask me all the time, why do you use the term congressman? Here's the story behind it, and it speaks to Linda's question. I was working in a little meat and three restaurant, handed a guy my push card. He looked at it and he said, little lady, what qualifies you for the U.S. House? Now bear in mind, Tennessee had never elected a woman in her own right, and still to this day, we have never had a female governor, nor have we had a female U.S. senator. I was a first. I was the trailblazer. In the state Senate, I was the only Republican woman. Running for Congress, no one had done that. So he asked me what qualified me, and I said, you know what, I'm probably not going to get this vote. So I looked at him, I said, sir, let me tell you something. I have been the 3-year-old choir director, the room mother chairman, and the Girl Scout cookie mom. And if you can handle those jobs, you can handle the U.S. House of Representatives. And any of you who have ever done those jobs know that's true. And then he motioned me back over to him a little bit later, and he said, little lady, if you win this thing, what are we going to call you? Congress girl, congressperson, congress lady? I said, sir, you know what? Congressman will be just fine. A reporter was following me that day, so the headline in the paper the next day was, congressman will be just fine. And I think what you have to do is to realize that at this point in our time, in our country, people are not interested in leadership as it appears. They are interested in leadership as it performs. They want you to deliver and get the job done, and that is what I come to work and do every single day.
Well said.
Well, I'd like to add to that. You know, I had a similar story when I first got into the legislature, and I had my first chairmanship of a committee, and in the state assembly, they actually put your chairmanship on your glass door. And the fellow that was coming through to put in that I was the chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee started to write chair. And then he started to put my name. I said, "You forgot a word." And he said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I'm not a chair." I said, "Do I look like a chair?" I said, "I'm not a chair, I'm a chairman." And he said, "Do you want chairman?" And I said, "Yes, I would like chairman." So it's always been a little bit of a similar story and joke. But, you know, I have been asked that question, Linda, many times. And it always, throughout the years, ever since I got into the legislature, are you ready for this? Do you have the fortitude? I know my Wisconsin delegation that is here today, they know I'm a pretty tough cookie. But at the time, I always answered in a couple ways. I'd say, I'm a mom, I've raised 2 kids, I'm a registered nurse, and I've worked in the busiest trauma center in the city of Milwaukee. I'm battle tested. I can handle it. The second thing I used to say that kind of bothered some of my colleagues, I'd say, beyond being a nurse, I'm a pediatric nurse. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. I'm used to dealing with juvenile behavior, so I think I can handle this.
And I've had similar experiences being a nurse and a mom as well. But Congressman Blackburn, the point you made about performing, leadership performance as opposed to titles and elections and those kinds of things, that really struck a chord. And so as we think about that, how can we think about redefining what it means to all of us, but especially the women in the room, leadership, redefining that term in a little different way? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do, and I've written a book dealing with some of these very issues and spend a lot of time focusing on it because at the heart of exercising leadership is, first of all, respect for the individuals that you are working with. In our office, I don't allow anybody to use the word boss. That is a 4-letter word. People work with me, and we work for our constituents. And we stay in active communication with the individuals in our district. We do a weekly newsletter every single Friday. People know that they're going to hear what we are doing because we can, when we talk about performance-based leadership, and that's the expectation of the American public, and meeting their expectation is the biggest problem we as legislators have. Meeting the expectation that people have for us based on what they understand as they hear us campaign. So we have to constantly tell them what we're doing, remind what we have done, what we are doing now, and then remind them that there is a second step, and this is what it's going to be. Engage them in the process. Respect them, trust them, let them know that they can trust you. They may not always agree with me, but people are always going to know where I stand. And then let them know what we are doing with the time that they have entrusted to us to work on their behalf.
Thank you.
Leadership is, I think, starts in large measure by leading by example. And whether that's in your state legislature, whether that's in Congress, whether that's in your business life, your home, I think you've got to walk those steps and do it yourself. And whether it's raising a family, whatever it is, you have to lead by example, and you have to listen. And I think this is something that women do so well. There are a multitude of things, and I'm not one who ever talks about women's issues, right? I think there are just issues out there that women care passionately about, and believe me, if we certainly saw the whole war on women defunct in this last election in a very large way, because at the end of the day, women care about the kitchen table issues that we all care about, which is jobs, the economy. They care certainly about the safety and security of their family, their nation, whether or not there's going to be an American dream, you know, for their children and grandchildren. They're offended by an $18 trillion debt at the federal level. They care about energy policy. We're the ones putting the gas in the car. We know what lousy energy policy does to the price at the pump. We're the ones that are making the healthcare decisions. You ask anybody, and you guys know this, we choose your doctors. You don't choose your doctors. We choose our doctors. We choose the children's doctors. And you talk to a Medicare provider, and they'll tell you that 85, 90% of the time, they're speaking with a daughter or a daughter-in-law. So we are on the cutting edge of so many of these key issues. So I think leading by example, delivering, being solution-oriented, being able to multitask are some of the key things that women bring to the table, and women leaders bring to the table. I said I've spent the better part of my life juggling an egg, a bowling ball, and a chainsaw. And then the cell phone rings, right? You know, and you got to lead by example. You've got to deliver, as Marsha has talked about, and that truly is what the American people are wanting. You've got to be able to listen to your colleagues and be in touch with what the issues are that they care deeply about. So.
Well, I would agree. You know, women's issues are everyone's issues. So I typically don't ascribe to gender politics, because I believe I represent men, I represent women, and the issues that confront all of us are issues that we are dealing with as elected officials. And to continue with what you said about decision making, you mentioned decision making about healthcare. Women in the home make 75 to 80% of the consumer decisions.
That's right.
So we're used to making these decisions. And now as elected officials, we're just doing it in a different way. We advocate in our homes for our families. As a nurse, I advocate for my patients. Now as an elected official, I lead by advocating for my constituents. So oftentimes I'm asked, how is it that a nurse got to be in the legislature, and what skills do you have? And I say, well, why would that be any different than somebody who's worked as a staffer in the Capitol, or somebody who's a CEO, or somebody who's a business owner? We all have skills. We've all led in different ways, and that ultimately is the answer for what is leadership, and how do you lead? You lead by leading, and you lead by example. I agree.
Excellent. And I think there's a common theme that we sort of disabuse the notion of women's issues and agree that they're kitchen table issues that everybody cares about. And but I do think that people would appreciate your advice, your insight into how we actually can move forward on some of these really vexing problems that perhaps are considered women's issues, but really are kitchen table issues. Some of the things that you see in the political sphere right now that this group of people would benefit from talking about while we're all here together and tackling. What would you like those conversations to include, ladies?
Well, one of the things, I serve as Vice Chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and we have a wide-ranging portfolio that we deal with. EPA rules and regulations, air and water regulations that are going to cripple the states. And I know we've written a letter to our governor, and my fantastic Tennessee legislators are holding a hearing December 17th on these issues, and they're to be commended for that. They're out in front of what the EPA is doing. The other is on Medicaid expansion in the states, concerns over that with Obamacare. We in Tennessee have lived through TennCare. We know what, and TennCare was the test case for Hillary Care. Long story short, 5 years into the program, it had quadrupled in cost. It ended up 35.3% of the state budget. State legislature couldn't vote on the program. It was done under an 1115 waiver that went to CMS. Office of the Governor had to do it. A governor came in later, subsequent to the one who had kind of walked the program through, and took 300,000 people off the program in a period of a few months. But those issues, what happens to the budget with Medicaid expansion, looking at education, and of course if I had my way here, we wouldn't have a U.S. Department of Energy or a U.S. Department of Education, or we wouldn't have an EPA, and I would have the states fully in charge of Medicare delivery systems because they're the ones that are going to be creative. They have to pay the bill.
Excellent.
And following up on that, I think one of your biggest challenges as state legislators is to figure out how this overreach of federal rules and regulations, as Marsha has outlined a few of those issues, are affecting you at the state level. We have seen, and we're living it right now with this, amnesty situation that we're dealing with right now, the overreach by the executive branch and by these departments, the alphabet soups of FDAs and EPAs, and you could just name any agency out there that are on your backs and in your way and in your business, in your legislative business. The overreach of the federal government into the lives of your constituents at the most state and local level, I think, is one of the biggest challenges that you are facing.
Yes,
truly.
Absolutely. Well, and to add one thing to what Ann is saying, she's so right about immigration. The way this administration is handling immigration, every state's a border state and every town's a border town. Because all of these issues have come into your communities with the UACs and the way this was carried out this summer. And so I do hope that you all will be aggressive.
You need to push back, push back. All I live for is to return power to the state and local level. I will tell you that.
Hallelujah.
And that is, I think, one of the key charges that we have here in the United States Congress. And I grew up in a family small business. I worked in my parents' carpet stores from the age of 12 on, and my DNA is built, by my wonderful father, who used to pound that podium or the table or the desk or whatever it was and say all he wanted was the government out of his way and off of his back so he could provide goods and services for his community, take care of his family and his employees. And that's what we need to be doing as a federal government. Off your back, out of your way, let you all govern from the bottom up. So.
Well, and you're sitting in a room of elected officials who are committed to that. We believe in limited government, free markets, and federalism, and that's what's exciting about the organization of ALEC. And I think for those of you who are new legislators here, I think it's important that you realize that if you stick to those principles, you will know how to govern. And you won't be scratching your head thinking, what in the world did I just get myself into? Because it's very simple. When you think about those principles, every time a problem comes before you, you can ask that question, what is the problem we're trying to solve, and is it the role of state government to solve that problem? And then how do we solve that problem? We solve that problem by sticking to our principles of limited government, free markets, and federalism. And I think it's a real simple recipe for solving any of the state problems that are affecting us. And you mentioned quite a few of them that are going to be affecting all of us as we go into our next legislative session. But if I could just make one plea to all of you, is just stick to a core set of principles, use it as your compass, your guidepost, and you will never ever have a difficult vote to take, because you will always check it based on what you campaign for, what you believe in, and therefore that makes it easy for you to take that vote.
Very good answers. And one thing I would like to add, these are two ladies here that are serving us right here in Washington that I'm going to invite back repeatedly to help us with our Center on Federalism, because I think that is exactly what many of us in the room want to make sure that we have the opportunities to serve our states well. The example I use very often is, the things that work well in Iowa are very unlikely to work the same way in Arizona or in New York. I mean, we have different states, and we need to be able to reflect that and serve the citizens of this country the very best we can at every level. And so, wow, I look forward to being really close partners with you guys on this project. I think I'm going to, can I have one more question? Do I have time for one more question? Because I want you all to have the opportunity to leave the audience with the words that sort of your word of wisdom, your word of advice to all these elected officials here today. And so I'd like to have you each conclude with that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Gosh, words of wisdom. Stick to your core principles. You can't go wrong in any way, shape, or form. Think outside the box. Be creative. You talked about innovation. You talked about, there are so many challenges that we're facing right now, and this is our opportunity. 68 of the 98 chambers are in your hands, and this is our opportunity to make a mark. And I'd really encourage you to find new and innovative ways to approach how it is that you're going to be out there working with and helping your constituents. I think those are some of the key things that I'd tell all of you to do. And then to follow up and just wrap up on some of the women's issues and running and leadership. Do encourage more women to get involved. I've been involved in candidate recruitment of women and encouraging women to get involved in politics and public service for the better part of a lifetime. And we picked up 5 women in the United States House, Republican women. We're going to have a record number that are serving. We certainly do in our Missouri legislature have an incredible number of women that are serving. And I think it's important that we mentor each other, we work with each other, we encourage women to step up and say yes. Every day, somebody in public service is making a decision that's going to affect your lives, everyone's lives. And people need to be informed and involved, and I do believe that we've got to be encouraging more women to get involved. We're 54% of the electorate. I'd like to see those kinds of numbers reflected in your state legislatures and certainly at the federal level too. So,
great advice.
Yeah. I think one of the things to remember is that individually in your states, you have opportunity. Collectively, think about what you can do to change the way this country works. And this is a time as you have kind of a supermajority, if you will, at the state level. The American people are trusting you. And one of the components of leadership is to be a team builder. So this is a time when each and every one of you individually can be a team builder. In your district, in your state, make the American people a part of your team for getting things done that are going to improve the quality of life. And the other thing would be, as you're doing this and taking these actions, realize that leaders raise up other leaders. And what you want to be doing as you build that team is bringing forward other people who are going to run for public office. Think about it in regard to what it does to help you in shaping a legacy, if you will. In your state rep district or your state senate district, if you're encouraging and role modeling and leading and mentoring individuals that run for city councils and county commissions and school boards, and they're a great team to come in behind you and continue the good work that you are doing at the state level. Team builders, raising up other leaders, and making a commitment to expanding that base across the country.
Thank you. Excellent.
Well,
Leah.
beyond sticking to your core principles, I gave quite a bit of my advice a little while ago, but I'll add a few more practical things. Never say something or do something that you don't feel right about doing. Somebody will say, you really should lead with this bill. You really should say this on the floor. Follow your gut. If it doesn't feel like you, don't say it. Another practical advice, read the bills. Read the bills.
Very good. Very good.
And then I would like to just add one more that I think is very important, and Newt Gingrich talked a little bit about it last night, but I have found that it has personally helped me in this increasingly polarized political environment in which we live, and that is build relationships with people on the other side of the aisle. There's something about having a friendship that makes it a little bit harder for that person to attack you when you're having a debate on the floor. And I learned this lesson very well when I came in as a freshman. There was a political thing that had happened in the state of Wisconsin, and we were pretty much told if we stay overnight in the Capitol that we're not to mingle with the other party. So I would go into the Inn on the Park, as my colleagues all know about that place. Republicans would be seated on one end of the establishment, Democrats would be on the other, and it just seemed so odd. Well, a Milwaukee Democrat, who is probably pretty polar opposite of me politically, she and I decided, we're freshmen, we're going to buck this tradition. And we used to sit at the bar together and eat our dinner. We didn't talk about politics. We talked about our children. We talked about our lives. We talked about our professions outside of the political world. And to this day, this woman and I have a great friendship. And she and I get up on the floor, and when we debate, boy, we really go at it. But we go at it based on the merits of the issue, and it never gets personal. And when we walk off the floor, we can go have another dinner together or another adult beverage. But I really encourage you to do that. It really will make a difference. And I think it's a great piece of advice that has served me well and has allowed me to get pieces of legislation through that many people had told me you would never get through, and yet I've gotten them through because of those relationships.
Well, I would like to conclude by observing that I think we've gotten some wonderful insight and wonderful advice out of all three ladies on the panel today. I'm just so thrilled with the messages that each of you had, the team building, the being true to your core, all those kinds of things that so many of us know and so many of us try and live. But hearing that encouragement from very successful individuals, I think it gives us all the encouragement to stay the course, keep doing what we know is right, doing the good work that we ran for office in order that we could do. And so I thank you so much for being here today. And I genuinely look forward to working with you to further federalism because I think it's important. It's why one of the things that keeps me going every day and up at night sometimes. So thank you very much for being here today.